There comes a moment when you quietly ask yourself, why does this still feel so difficult? Promised yourself that this time would be different. You would pray more consistently. You would become more disciplined. You would finally overcome the habits that have followed you for years. You would become the person you believe God wants you to be. So you tried. You made plans. You created routines. You filled journals with goals. You kept starting over every Monday, every new month, every new year. For a little while, it seemed like things were changing. Then life happened. The motivation disappeared. The old patterns returned. The same disappointments came knocking again. And somewhere deep inside, a dangerous thought began to grow. Maybe I am just not strong enough. Maybe everyone else has figured it out except me. Maybe God expects more than I can give. If you have ever carried those thoughts, stay with me. Because today we are going to uncover one of the most freeing truths Jesus ever shared. It is not complicated. It is not hidden behind complicated theology. It is beautifully simple, yet many believers spend years missing it. The words are found in John chapter 15. At first glance, it seems like a lesson about farming. There are vines, branches, fruit, gardener. Simple pictures almost anyone could understand. But beneath that picture is a truth capable of changing the way you see your entire relationship with God. Most people assume that spiritual growth depends mainly on determination. If they work harder, they will become holier. If they push themselves longer, they will become stronger. If they perform well enough, God will finally be pleased. That sounds reasonable. But Jesus presents something completely different. He never tells the branch to struggle harder. He never commands it to squeeze out fruit through effort. He points to something far more important: connection. Think about that for a moment. A branch never wakes up deciding to produce grapes. It does not strain. It does not compete with the branches beside it. It simply remains connected to the vine. Everything it needs flows into it naturally. Its life does not originate from itself. Its strength comes from its source. Now imagine trying to tape a broken branch back onto a tree. From a distance, it might look alive. Its leaves may stay green for a little while, but eventually they fade. Not because the branch lacked potential, because it was disconnected from the life that sustained it. Many people live exactly like that. They look fine on the outside. They smile. They attend church. They say the right words. But inside they feel spiritually dry. Not because God abandoned them, because they have been trying to survive on their own strength. Jesus invites us into something entirely different. He says the answer is to remain in Him. That single invitation changes everything. It means your relationship with God is not powered by endless effort. It is sustained by continual dependence. That is incredibly freeing, because dependence is not weakness. In God's kingdom, dependence is wisdom. Consider a child holding a parent's hand while crossing a busy street. The child's safety is not based on having enough strength. It is based on staying close to the one who does. That is the picture Jesus gives us. He never asks us to carry life alone. He calls us into constant closeness. So why do we keep exhausting ourselves? Because we often confuse activity with intimacy. We think doing more automatically means knowing God better. We become busy serving, busy learning, busy performing. Yet our hearts slowly drift from the one we claim to follow. It is possible to know many facts about Jesus while spending very little time with Him. John 15 reminds us that fruit grows from relationship before it grows into results. That changes the order completely. Instead of chasing transformation, we stay close to Christ. Then transformation begins to appear naturally. Notice something remarkable. Fruit develops gradually. No tree produces a full harvest overnight. Growth is often invisible before it becomes obvious. Roots deepen long before branches expand. God is usually working beneath the surface before anyone notices the change above it. That is encouraging, because sometimes you feel like nothing is happening. You pray, you trust, you keep showing up, yet everything seems unchanged. But hidden growth is still growth. The vine never stops supplying life simply because the process feels slow. Do not measure God's work only by what you can immediately see. He is often preparing you long before revealing what He has been building. Perhaps you have been frustrated because you are comparing your journey with someone else's. You see their confidence, their peace, their wisdom, their faith. You wonder why your own life does not look the same. But branches are not called to compare. They are called to remain connected. Comparison steals joy because it shifts your attention away from Christ and toward everyone else. John 15 gently redirects your focus. Keep your eyes on the vine. Everything else will follow in its proper time. There is another beautiful truth hidden here. Healthy branches are cared for by the gardener. That means God is actively involved in your life, even when you do not understand what He is doing. Sometimes He removes distractions. Sometimes He allows seasons of waiting. Sometimes He cuts away things you wanted to keep, not to punish you, but to prepare you for greater growth. Pruning is rarely comfortable, but it is always purposeful. The gardener sees possibilities the branch cannot yet imagine. When difficult seasons arrive, it is tempting to believe God has forgotten you. John 15 tells a different story. Even in painful moments, His hands are still at work. Nothing is wasted. Not your disappointments, not your failures, not your tears. God has an incredible ability to use every season to shape people who trust Him. This changes how we respond to hardship. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we begin asking, "Lord, what are you growing inside me?" That question opens the door to peace, because your confidence no longer depends on circumstances. It depends on the one who never changes. Imagine waking up each morning without feeling pressured to prove your worth. Imagine living without the constant fear that you are never doing enough. Imagine knowing that your identity is not built on perfect performance, but on remaining close to Jesus. That is the freedom John 15 offers. It replaces anxiety with trust, pressure with peace, fear with confidence. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you are no longer carrying it by yourself. Today, stop measuring your relationship with God by how hard you are trying. Instead, ask yourself one simple question: am I staying close to Jesus? Because everything begins there. Real peace, real strength, real joy, real transformation. None of these are manufactured through endless striving. They grow from a life that stays connected to its true source. So release the burden you have been carrying. Lay down the pressure to earn what has already been freely given. Draw near to Christ. Stay with Him. Walk with Him. Trust Him one day at a time. When you remain connected to the vine, a life you have been chasing no longer feels impossible. It begins to grow from the inside out, and that changes everything.